Why so many traditions warn about the crossing. There's a warning that echoes across time, not in one voice, but in thousands. Not about death, but about what lies in between. The threshold, the crossing between worlds, between states of being, between who you were and what you might become. Ancient Egypt carved it into tomb walls. Greek mystery cults whispered it in darkened chambers. Alchemists encoded it in symbols of dissolution and rebirth. The warning is always the same: do not cross unprepared. This is part one of a two-part exploration into what the crossing actually is and why every esoteric tradition maps it with obsessive precision. And if you haven't yet done so, make sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell to stay up to date on esoteric insights and occult knowledge. What the crossing actually means. The crossing is not a place. It's a gap, a threshold where one state ends and another one begins. The word comes from the Latin limen, meaning threshold. In 1909, anthropologist Arnold von Gennep gave it a name: liminality, the middle phase of any transformation where identity is loosened, rules are suspended, meaning becomes unstable. He called this transitional state a period of ambiguity, a margin, a limbo in which the subject has no status. A modern example of this would be quitting your job and moving to another job. You lose your previous title at your previous job. You're in this transitional state of no title prior to moving to your new job where you'll have a new title. But esoteric traditions didn't need modern anthropology to know this. They had been mapping it for thousands of years, and they knew something crucial. The crossing isn't dangerous because it's supernatural. It's dangerous because its structure dissolves. Alchemy, the Nigredo, and the art of dissolution. The alchemists understood the crossing as a literal stage in transformation. The process, for simplicity's sake, has three basic phases: Nigredo, blackening, breakdown, decay, death; Albedo, whitening, purification; Rubedo, reddening, the completion. But the Nigredo was the most dangerous. It's the breaking down of form, the death of the old self. The Nigredo is Luke Skywalker's descent into the cave on Dagobah in The Empire Strikes Back. It is the fear of becoming what he opposes and the moment when his old self dies to give way for inner transformation. Between the Nigredo and the Albedo, there is a space the texts warn about repeatedly: premature crystallization, trying to solidify too soon; false gold, mistaking imitation for transformation or superficial change; spiritual madness, losing coherence entirely. The alchemical texts are obsessive about timing and sequence because if you try to skip the crossing or rush through it, you don't transform, you fracture. The Rosarium Philosophorum, a key alchemical text, states, "There are many men too forward as deceitful boasters, which after great expenses and labors find out no effect but misery." So what does that mean? It means that a lot of people jump into alchemy too quickly, boasting and bragging that they can do it, but after spending a lot of time and money, they fail completely and end up frustrated. The goal was never to avoid the Nigredo. It was to cross it correctly, with knowledge, with preparation, with symbols to guide the way. Hermeticism, as above, so below, and the perilous middle. Hermetic philosophy, rooted in the teachings attributed to Hermes Trismegistus, understood the crossing as a cosmic principle. The Emerald Tablet states, "As above, so below, as within, so without." This isn't mystical poetry. It is structural law. Transformation in the soul mirrors transformation in matter, and both require passage through dissolution. The Hermetic tradition taught that the soul, seeking ascent, must first descend into matter, into darkness, into the prima materia, the formless base substance. The Corpus Hermeticum describes this descent, but when the body grows in bulk and draweth down the soul into its mass, then doth the soul cut off itself and bring upon itself forgetfulness, and no more shareth in the beautiful and the good, and this forgetfulness becometh vice. What does this mean? The soul, weighed down by the body, falls into forgetfulness. But this forgetting isn't punishment, it is necessary, because only by descending into form can the soul learn to transcend it. The danger lies in getting stuck in the descent, trapped in matter, unable to find its way back. This is why Hermetic initiation required gnosis, direct knowledge of the divine, symbols, keys to unlock the ascent, ritual purification, preparation for the return. The Hermetic adept does not avoid the crossing, they master it, because the crossing is where transformation happens, but only if you know the way through. Ancient Egypt, the Duat and the map of the dead. In Egyptian cosmology, death is not an ending, it's a doorway. But what lies beyond that door is not rest. It is the Duat, a liminal realm of darkness, gates, and trials that must be navigated. The Amduat in the Book of the Dead are not prayers, they are survival manuals, spells for crossing, maps and symbols for the threshold. Symbols have always been used as maps in these moments. One passage reads, "He who knows the names of the gates shall pass through them." This isn't poetry. This is instruction. The soul must know the names of guardians, the words of power, the sequence of gates. Without this knowledge, the soul does not arrive in the afterlife. It dissolves. The Egyptians understood something critical. The danger of the crossing is not punishment. It is erasure. Not fire, but loss of self. This is why they carved spells into tombs, wrapped them in linen, placed them in coffins, because the crossing was real, and forgetting the map meant never arriving. The deceased had to speak the correct words at each gate, had to know the names of demons, had to weigh their heart against the feather of Mat. Knowledge was survival, and without it, the soul was devoured by the monster-type creature Amit, the eater of souls, not as punishment, as consequence. Greece, crossing water, crossing worlds. Greek mythology is obsessed with thresholds, and almost all of them involve water. To reach the underworld, the dead must cross the river Styx. The ferryman is Charon. The price is a coin placed under the tongue. Virgil writes in the Aeneid, Book 6, "Nor may any soul be carried over those roaring waters until their bones have found rest in a tomb." This is not arbitrary. The crossing requires ritual payment, acknowledgement of transition, proper burial, social closure, recognition. The living must release the dead. Without these, the soul does not cross. It wanders, trapped on the banks of the river Styx. Not in torment, in limbo. The Greek mystery traditions at Eleusis took this further. Initiates didn't just learn about the crossing, they experienced it. Plutarch described the initiation as wandering in darkness, then sudden light, a ritual death, a symbolic crossing, a controlled dissolution and rebirth. Because the Greeks understood, you cannot teach someone to cross a threshold, you can only guide them through it. In conclusion, the crossing appears in every tradition because it's not cultural, it is structural. Alchemy called it Nigredo, Hermeticism called it the descent into matter, Egypt mapped it as the Duat, Greece guarded it with rivers and coins, all describing the same reality, a space where the old self dissolves and the new has not yet formed. In part 2, we'll explore how other traditions, Vedic, Norse, Christian, shamanic, and psychological, continue this pattern, and why their warnings were never about fear, they were about survival. So what do you think? Where have you crossed from? Are you on the threshold? We'd love to hear from you. Also, stay tuned for more videos, courses, and reach out for tarot readings or consultations.